You are now entering Nyghtstorm Nation.
All I have to say is this.
Child abuse.
If you are one of those people
Divorce.
that have been put down all of your life,
Infidelity.
beat up and trapped in a pit of woe,
Depression.
it is time for you to stand up with the Nyghtstorm Nation, because we aren't going anywhere.
I'm YG Nyghtstorm, the man not afraid to be transparent, as I help real people with real issues. And my co-host is my queen, my stunningly gorgeous wife. Come on with it.
Good morning, ATL and everyone across the nation.
Yes.
This is Toby George Nyghtstorm, the woman not afraid to tell the truth as to things as they really are. And this is Nyghtstorm Radio. Radio gone real because we are you.
Now, Nyghtstorm Nation, if you're in the ATL, feel free to call in at 443-55-8699. And to all the Nyghtstorm Nation members around the country, call in at 1-866-923-2860. You can also find out more about us, the Nyghtstorms, at Nyghtstorm.com. That's NYGHTSTORM.com. And you can also listen to our show from the Talk Radio page of our website and also on Love860.com.
That's right. Now, you smartphone users, I'm going to continue to tell you because consistency is the key. Pull out that phone, download that app, iHeartRadio, Tunein Radio, iRadionow, whichever is your preference. Go to the Talk Radio station. Find Love 860 AM. Find us. We're right there waiting on you.
Do what
anywhere,
the queen say.
Everywhere. Tune in. We're here. You don't have an excuse. Your radio, your computer, your phone, we're there.
Do what the queen say, just like me, and your life will be all right, just like mine. Okay, so what's on tap for today, baby?
All right. Well, as always, we're going to inspire, motivate, and teach. That's what we do here at Nyghtstorm Radio because we just love Nyghtstorm Nation and we want them to be in the know on everything that can help them in their life. We're going to be talking about how to successfully manage your PTSD. Now, we have a lot of people that suffer from that. You have mainly war veterans is the main thing in the news that you hear about, but it can come from any traumatic event. It's your mind's way of coping with a continuous assault on your psyche. And we want to figure out how to handle the death of loved ones, deal with the guilt up from unfortunate life challenges, and how to pick yourself up when the world has literally knocked you down.
Amen to that. And Nyghtstorm Nation, this is going to be deep. And as always, the queen and I, like to get things started with an email from our listeners. And if you would like to send us a line, you can hit us up at the Nyghtstorms at Nyghtstorm.com, and we will read your letter. And if it coincides with the topic, we'll be more than happy to read it. So, sweetheart, let's get going with this first Nyghtstorm letter, shall we?
Yes, we shall. It goes, Dear Nyghtstorms, I have had the pleasure of listening to several of your shows, and this is the first time I ever wrote into the radio show telling my personal business. I feel that I've come to a point where I have literally lost all control of my life. I am a military veteran of 6 tours in Iraq and 2 tours in Afghanistan, and I was severely wounded by a landmine before I was finally shipped home. I lost both my legs and my right arm in service to my country. But recovering from my physical wounds is not my issue. I was diagnosed with PTSD, and it is a nightmare every day as I relive seeing my friends being killed in the line of duty. I love my country, and I'm willing to face death to defend our freedom, but I'm very afraid that my mental illness is keeping me from enjoying the rest of my life. Now, I know YG has stated that he has PTSD also from being abused and sexually assaulted as a child. I commend him for getting back his power, but I need some help getting back mine. A loyal patriot of the United States of America and proud member of Nyghtstorm Nation. Hoorah! This is Tom from Arkansas.
Wow. Now, sweetheart, that's deep. And Tom, thank you, sir, for your service. And the interesting aspect of this is Tom, unfortunately, ran into a landmine, and he says both his legs and his right arm are blown off.
Correct.
Okay, but he says that is not the issue.
that would have been an issue with me, but that's a very, very strong person. Just the fact that you're saying, okay, I'm dealing with that, but that's not my big concern.
I mean, because he said, I don't mind giving my life for fighting for the freedom of our country and protecting our citizens and our interests abroad. He doesn't mind doing that. But the issue is the PTSD and seeing his friends suffer. So he's the type of gentleman that his suffering, his physical ailments do not affect him. He's all right with that. It's when he sees what's happening to his loved ones that's causing the issue. This is a very, very strong individual.
And also, like we said, we salute you, Tom,
yes,
and all of our veterans that have served our country. I think the one thing that's really getting to him, and I understand, I hear what he's saying, is that they have prosthetics for your arms and for your legs. They have ways that you can maneuver and get rehab and work with, missing limbs. But PTSD, as we know personally, my being a spouse of a PTSD sufferer and you who are personally dealing with it, there's no cure.
No.
There's counseling. There's things that you can do. It's one thing when you can see a solution to a problem, whereas you can work this out physically. But when it's mental, that's a totally different situation, and I totally understand where he's coming from. And the only thing I can say is you have to just keep going to your counseling. Keep finding those things that help you to deal with it and help you to make baby steps forward until you can make leaps and bounds. And YG, what's helped you?
Yeah, because PTSD is no joke. It's like a nightmare that you can never run away from. It's like it's there when you're sleeping and it's there when you're awake. And it can be visions. It's like a movie playing over and over in your head of something that has happened to you, something terrible that has happened to you over and over again. One of the worst things and memories you could ever phantom is constantly on auto repeat, and you can't hide from it. The only thing you can do is understanding and really force your mind and say, look here, I know this is the past. I know this is not the time that I'm living in, no matter what I'm seeing, no matter what I'm feeling, because sometimes it takes you back to that moment where you feel the temperature in the air that it was. If it was raining, you can feel it. You can smell the smells. You can touch things that were around you. Your senses are extra sharp at this time. And you remember vividly what happened. It's like it's repeating itself. But Tom, what I do when I'm tossed back into those places of some of the worst moments in my life that had me trapped, I constantly remind myself that the year is 2014. I am married to a wonderful woman. I have 7 wonderful children. And right now, this day, I am not there. And that helps sometimes, but we are going to get deeper. And it's always good when you have other experts on. Know what I mean,
yes,
baby?
Yes, it definitely
is. Always good. So I'm going in my British accent, and I know you hate this. I know Jared hates this. He's shaking his head in the booth right now. We even got a guest in the booth with him, just smiling. He said, yeah, go for it, brother. So
he does not know.
So, Jared, if you can cue that music, please, so we can introduce our guest properly. Ha 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 ha! Yeah! Nyghtstorm Nation, our distinguished guest is here. Take it away, my queen. Woo!
With the slogan, when you work in the highest good, you work in the highest good. This phenomenal woman's whole mission in life is to help people love themselves again. As a certified professional life coach, out to change the definition of fail so that people can embrace the whole of the journey.
She is a pivotal force in helping people take back their power and never let it go. So, ladies and gentlemen of Nyghtstorm Nation and listeners around the world, it is our honor, privilege, and pleasure to welcome to Nyghtstorm Radio the wellness accomplice herself, TRIFFANY Hammond. Yeah!
Good morning, TRIFFANY. How are you?
Well, it is now. I feel like that was like a red carpet just for me. I'm so excited.
You know, right? It's your time to shine. Get your shine on, girl.
Get your shine on, Tiffany. Now, you know, we do our fair amount of research on the folks that come on this show, ma'am, and you deserve every last bit of those accolades, ma'am. You are an awesome individual.
Oh, thank you so much. Well, in the coaching world, we say you spot it, you got it. So if you see awesome in me, it's because it exists in you. So, yay us.
Yay.
Oh, you know,
I know. As he has me pat him on the back.
Oh,
literally.
yes. Yeah, and I pat the queen
shoulder.
back.
Yeah, there you go.
Okay, all right.
And we're sending out a virtual mental one to you, Tiffany. There you go.
Thank you. I feel it. Thank you so much.
Okay. All right. Now, Tiffany, I hope you heard the Nyghtstorm letter.
I did.
From our veteran, and this is Tom from Arkansas, and and I know a proud Marine, and this is a gentleman who is blessed with the fact that he loves others to the point where he would voluntarily give his life. Okay, he did 6 tours in Iraq. Okay, he did. And other tours in Afghanistan. 2 legs blown off, right arm blown off, and he don't even bat an eyelash. It's like, whatever's whatever. I love my country. But seeing his friends die in combat is what gave him the PTSD, and I'm sure some other things also. So knowing this stuff and dealing with this stuff, what does it mean to you when you say to help folks and while you're being a transitions coach? What is that all about, and how does that help people like Tom?
Well, Tom's situation is absolutely severe. I mean, there's no doubt about it. He's at a place of transition. He really is at a point where his brain is trying to grasp and make sense of what's going on in his new reality while trying to also cling to his old reality, right? One of the things that we have to really do when we adjust to what's new for us is identify what I call the new normal. We don't want it to be normal. We don't want the nightmares. YG, you mentioned that how the traumatic event, it replays. It's like a movie on a screen. You can see it, you can hear it, you can feel the temperature of the air, the whole 9 yards. And we don't want that to happen. We want the reference point we had before the trauma happened, feeling safe and feeling courageous and feeling part of a team and whatever else that meant. So Tom's situation is definitely, that's an obvious trauma. That's an obvious point of reinvention. But to your point, YG, PTSD can be a result of a lot of things, some of which aren't as obvious. I've got a client, she's got PTSD from suffering chronic illness for most of her life. And you think, well, if chronic illness is a day-by-day thing, isn't that something she's used to? Isn't that her normal? Not when we're comparing it to what we think our lives should be. When we look at our healthy family, when we look at other people just going about their business and they seem to have their act together. So when we have that comparison in our mind, the trauma can be obvious like Tom's or slow and steady like my client's. Either way, the point of reinvention, that transition, that place where we get really conscious about evaluating our life, comes when we finally sit down and we say, no more of this. No more of this. The spark inside of me. I love what Tom said about the body, the physical stuff, fine. What he's really recognizing is the injury to his spark, his life essence, his force inside of him. And by the time we get to that point where we go, this is not who I am, that's when we begin to make conscious choices that can heal those internal wounds and make use of them, usually to help other people heal as well. Just like you're doing with the show, YG. I mean, you went through your stuff, and you're using your story as a medium to help other people have permission to have their process and go do their personal work. Does that make sense?
Yes, definitely. It makes sense to you, YG?
Oh, most definitely. I mean, I'm practicing this stuff. It better make some sense when I'm wrong.
That's right.
Well, I know the biggest thing is being the spouse of a person with PTSD. Out of all the issues that you deal with, I think that PTSD, and I've told YG before, I think that is like the biggest monster to fight if you want to take it back to medieval times. That's the biggest dragon to slay because it's hard to fight something when you can be going along your day and then all of a sudden, bam, you're right back in that spot
it's
with
like
no
Hydra.
warning at all, and you're there. I was like, you can deal with depression and you can deal with whatever else, but that PTSD is a mother because it strikes out of nowhere. You could be watching TV and all of a sudden you're not in the room watching television anymore. You're in this space.
Yeah.
So you have this acronym for FAIL, F-A-I-L. What is the FAIL and the Win Tells course?
So the Fail to Win course, the whole thing is designed to bring you back to love, not love as in terms of what we do for others, but love as a point of creation, love as what we are, what we already are, and bringing you back to that as a point of creation. Because there's really two manifesting energies in our life. There's love and there's fear. And we have a culture around fear that debilitates a lot of people. Even when talking about PTSD, I wish we could take the D off. It is not a disorder for the brain to translate a horrible experience and try to keep memory of it so that if it comes across it in the future, it knows to steer clear. That is not a disorder. It is not a disorder to need support. It is not a disorder to fall into depression and denial and anger and all of those things. So the fear that stress could do something like that actually perpetuates the problems created from the stress itself. Right? It keeps that cycle going because we have this fear wrapped around it. And so this class I designed, I really wanted to I wanted to redefine fear in general, but fear around failure in particular. So yeah, the acronym for FAIL is For All Is Love. Okay. Even our fears they can be used as a tool to guide us back to love because they show us the work that's left to be done. And when we look at them that way, when we look at the things in our life that are uncomfortable, and I use that term very broadly, but what I'm trying to do is muddy the waters between that was a good experience and that was a bad experience. Because I'll tell you, and I bet if I were to ask you straight out, what's a moment you're most proud of, it's going to come on the heels of something that was pretty difficult. You're like, I overcame that, I bolstered myself, I healed from that. It's always going to come off of those painful times in our lives. So can we really call them bad? And when we begin to shift our perspective a little bit, rather than do that in retrospect, we begin to do it in real time so that when we're faced with something that triggers that stress or we're faced with something that just makes it, somebody cuts us off in traffic, it can be something as mundane as that. When we look at that now as a reflection of something that's left for us to work on. Remember, I said at the beginning of this, you spot it, you got it, right? So that can be true for awesome. It can also be true for thoughtlessness.
Yes.
And where am I being thoughtless? So it's all love when we treat it that way. It's all love when we use it to our advantage. Personally, this is when we work in our highest good, we work in the highest good. Because when we heal that stuff in ourselves, we can't help but show up differently for other people.
And I'm happy that you talk about the shifting of the perspective. Okay, because that is definitely very, very real. And I know we're coming up against a heartbreak, but I want to say this because when you are talking about when you get trapped, and from a personal experience, and the Queen has seen me, I get a trigger. It could be something from my childhood because I grew up in a very abusive household. And I might see something or hear something. It could be the slightest thing. It can be a note from a song that was playing while I was being raped when I was a kid. Okay, yes. Or it could be something that someone says that reminds me of something of what the person who raped me, what he was saying to me at the time. It could be something simple as a phrase. And as a 40-year-old man, and this happened to me when I was 11 years old, but as a 40-year-old man, I am instantly transported back to that moment. I am, 5'4", no more than 100 pounds, and I'm a little kid again. And sometimes what has helped me, even when the Queen is not around, I would literally have to get up, go into the mirror, and look and see a 6'1", 300-pound dude, okay, yes. And say, I am not that person anymore. I have to shift that perspective. I have to forcibly shift it because if I'm sitting there, the dream or the movie is going to continue to play. And what I tell people is that you have permission to leave the theater. You have permission to leave. So we on a hard break. and we gonna get deep with Tiffany Hammond. You are listening to Nightstorm Radio right here on Love 860 AM WAEC, Atlanta's inspirational talk radio station. Leave the theater. You ain't gotta look at that movie.
You ever been so depressed to where you want to hurt yourself because life has been unkind, unfair, and unforgivable? Folks done hurt you and thrown you away. Yeah, I know, because I was there too, until I read this book by NYGHTSTORM called All Action No Talk. This dude has been there, man. He understands us. He was homeless, abused as a child, abandoned by his dad, and even his oldest son passed away. I'm encouraged because if this dude can make it, so can I, and so can you. So check it out at Nyghtstorm.com, NYGHTSTORM, and know that you have the strength to change your life despite adversity, like him, like me, like you.
Hey, you, guy or gal that's listening, are you enjoying the night storms? Good! If you want the 411 on me, YG Nightstorm,
And me, Toby George Nightstorm, aka Lady Nightstorm, visit Nyghtstorm.com. That's NYGHTSTORM.com. Check out our informative blogs, videos, and see what Nightstorm Nation is doing to benefit the community. You can also follow us on Twitter and Facebook.
thanks again for listening to the Night Storms on Nightstorm Radio every Thursday at 11 a.m. to noon on Love 860 AM, Atlanta's inspirational station. We are you.
Hi everyone, it's me, Lady Nightstorm, and have I got news for you. Want to know how to keep up with us and what we're doing in the community? It's easy. Just like us on Facebook at Nightstorm Radio. Follow us on Twitter at Nightstorm Radio and become part of the Nightstorm Nation mailing list at Nyghtstorm.com. That's NYGHTSTORM. Keep up with all our promotions, contests, and latest happenings. Nightstorm Radio. We are you.
You are now rocking with the Night Storms on Atlanta's inspirational station, Love 860 AM WAEC. Now back to the show.
We are back and we're speaking with Tiffany Hammond. And if you would like to call in and be a part of the conversation or ask a question, please do so. The number here is 404-355-8699 and 1-866-923-2860.
Yeah, and we are enjoying our time with the Wellness Accomplice, Tiffany Hammond. And Tiffany, we have another Night Storm letter, okay? Are you ready?
I'm ready.
Okay. It says, Dear Night Storms, I saw that you were having Tiffany Hammond on your show, and I wanted to address this question to you guys and her. And the question is, how do you cope with the guilt of taking your parents off life support? As the last surviving member of my childhood household, I have seen my siblings, aunts, uncles, and grandparents die from terminal illnesses. My parents were very healthy, exercised all the time, and did everything right. But their car was hit by a drunk driver 8 weeks ago, and they were on life support. The doctors told me that there was nothing left that they could do or to be done because they were both brain dead. I kept them on life support for selfish reasons because they were all that I had left in this world. My husband divorced me because we found out that I am barren, and my parents helped me so much through my divorce. I know that I had to let them go, but I feel like I have killed the last of my family. I can't sleep, eat, or enjoy life as I break out crying all the time knowing that I am responsible for their deaths. I need help. Can you please give me some advice? Okay, now we got some issues here, and this is from Nicole from Los Angeles. And Nicole, we hear you, and thank you for your letter, and we're gonna talk to you. But what I have here, Triffany and Toby, are three issues. One, she got being the last survivor of her family. So, Toby, and Triffany, I'm gonna hit you up with something in a second. But Toby, I need you to address this bit of the Nightstorm letter of her being the last survivor of her family, because you got some experience with that.
Well, I'm not the last survivor, but as far as of my household, I was raised in a household with my mother, my grandmother, and my uncle, and they all have passed. What I know from childhood is not there anymore. So I definitely can relate to the fact that she feels like she's alone and she has no one else that, she can speak to. I have you, of course, YG, and I have our children. So I still have something that's right here with me. But she's in a situation where she can't have children, and she doesn't have a husband. And the one thing that was her rock and her support system was her parents. Right. And I think the first point I wanted to bring to the surface is that she seems to have this guilt on herself, saying that she killed them. But she states in her letter that, this was due to the accident. So first, she needs to forgive herself in that aspect, I would think. Wouldn't you, Triffany?
Absolutely. Absolutely. I couldn't agree with you more. That forgiveness and grace piece has to come first. And what's interesting is even in the words that she chose in her letter, there's a piece of her that already knows this. She says, I kept them on life support for selfish reasons. She knows it was a selfless act. It was an act of mercy to let the body go so that the spirit could be free. She knows this in her heart of hearts. Yet she has this other story, these other life conditions that are wrapping around the event, right? Yes, it's the last surviving, it's the lack of support. And I'm so glad, Toby, that you nailed those things just spot on, because this is how we build the layers of the story of our trauma. And we repeat these to ourselves over and over again. Yet the truth is already inside of her. So that last bit, she says, I am responsible for their death. Now, one of the things I love to do the most with people who are facing such layered and deeply entrenched types of guilt is have them question it. There's a tool that I use. I call it find a statement, ask a question. So the statement is, I am responsible for their death. The question is, am I responsible for their death? I notice I feel responsible for their death. Is that even true? And then we get deeper and deeper. I love this one. Can I absolutely know in all space and time, past, present, and future, that I am responsible for their death? When we start looking at it expansively like that, and we go beyond what I call the meat suit, I call the body a meat suit, because the truth is we are a spark. What we are is this spark, and we have chosen this human classroom on this earth in what I call a meat suit that is really meant to limit us in ways so that we can develop this love and grace and compassion in the spark that lives within us. So in letting that meat suit go, has she really let anything die other than the meat suit? And we start to look at these expansive ideas around death, and this doesn't come from a random place. I had meningitis in 2004. I totally viewed death differently because I nearly died. I had an experience that was unlike any other, and I draw from that now because death doesn't mean to me what it once did. Right. I don't have this myopic view of death that I once had. And so that's what I draw on when I look at these situations, and it's okay to question that. Am I even responsible? She knows already the truth. The truth is she did the loving and most kind thing she could do.
Yes, she did.
Yet the trappings of the meat suit, the trappings of the brain, the trappings of the stories that we perhaps built over the years, judging others or watching other people judge us, that has defined this story. So question the heck out of our stories. That's the story. That's the punchline here, right? Question the heck out of our stories. Because if we look at it this way, our whole reality, our view of life itself is very tiny Even if you didn't believe in anything beyond this physical world, we still have only our personal view. We've only ever existed inside our heads. There are 7 billion people in this world. There are 7 billion alternate views of this world and life as it exists. So to think that our one holding place in our guilt, in our shame, in our hurts, in our past, in our visions of our future is the one singular truth about our life, it doesn't serve us in times like this. And this is, for her, identifying a new normal, too. What would her life look like without guilt? Mm-hmm. There's a point of transition again for her to do that work. Does that make sense? What comes up? I'm sure there's questions. I just threw a bunch out there.
Well, and you hit the nail on the head. And I want to also just personally talk to Nicole about this, because I want to tell you this. You are not responsible for the death of your parents. You actually freed them. You're responsible for their freedom. The person that's responsible for the deaths of your parents is the drunk driver that hit them. The person that was being irresponsible. You did a selfless act to free them. That person did a selfish act to hurt them, because that is a very selfish act to know you are intoxicated after all the campaigns of drunk driving that's been going on for the last 20 years. You got mad mothers against drunk driving and sad students against drunk driving. There is no excuse that this person ingested all of this alcohol, got behind the wheel, and ended the life of 2 phenomenal folks. So, Nicole, we want to tell you that it's not your fault, sweetheart. And it's one more thing that I really want to hit on here, Triffany, is that she about not only these things that are happening with her family, the deaths with the illnesses and not a loss of her parents, but also in her own personal life with the loss of her marriage, okay? Mm-hmm. Going through a divorce, and not just the loss of the marriage, but finding out that she cannot have children. And because of this fact, and it may be other factors, but this is what she's highlighting, the fact that she's barren and she can't have children, that was the straw that broke the camel's back for her husband. So now she's abandoned, and all of her other family members are gone. Her parents, who were her foundations, someone took them from her. She had to do the hard job to let them go. And the love of her life is gone, and she can't ever have kids. That in itself is its own dynamic of what you talk about and what the Queen and I talk about. And so I would really like for you just to take a few moments to talk to Nicole personally about just the abandonment issues with her husband and how she can switch up that perspective, ma'am.
Absolutely. Well, for starters, we have a particular attachment to the way we think life should go. We are taught that if we just follow this life plan, that life should go this way. You go to school, you go to a higher school, you get a degree, you get a job, you get married, you have kids, your parents died naturally, right? And everybody gets to say goodbye. We have an idea, and we're sort of married to this thought that life should go one way. And that happens for the tiniest of percent of people. And when we're married to that, when we're really attached to that, everything else we do that falls outside of what we feel is right or normal or should happen, we unintentionally carry guilt and shame anyway. We unintentionally say, well, I'm doing it wrong. I still haven't figured it out. I've been an adult for how long? Why don't I have my answers? And we play these tapes to ourselves over and over and over again. So one of the first things is, so there's that, right? One of the things we can really work on is dissolving this attachment to one right outcome in our life, one trajectory that is acceptable. We can broaden our view and look at a lot of different normals, a lot of different ways to love ourselves. And then the second thing I want to do is I really want to congratulate Nicole, and I want to say this to Tom, too. Both of them took a very valuable first step in the healing that is necessary. She shared her story with you. And how many listeners? Like 3 million something listeners? She shared her story. And YG, and Toby, you too, as the caretaker of someone who, I mean, not caretaker, but, you know, as a partner to someone who goes through stuff, you guys know more than most the value of the permission that is implied when you share your story, because other people go, oh, me too.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, my gosh, it's not just me. And whether Nicole and Tom, too, know it or not, they're already building a support team, at least on the energetic level, and who knows what comes next? Who knows who they share it with next? That somebody from, an unexpected neighbor or a coworker goes, I thought I was the only one. So she's lost that traditional support, that one that she thought she would have, her parents, her husband, the right trajectory that she thought she would have.
Mm-hmm.
Yet in doing this very valuable, very scary step of sharing her story, she's opening the door to building a community that is, maybe it doesn't look like what she first thought it would look like, but it's all the more valuable because it comes from a place of love and support and a sense of community. And it's coming on purpose. It's no longer this default, I'm playing by the rules, I'm doing what society tells me to do, and my value is based on whether or not I succeed by someone else's model. No. She doesn't feel empowered by this yet, but hopefully she will, because now she's making a conscious choice to say, you know what? I get to make my choices about my future and who I surround myself with from this point forward, and it is going to include my personal story. That's so valuable. That is so valuable. I'm preaching to the choir.
No, exactly. And then, just as a woman, and the fact that she hit on, she can't, physically have children, but we are a blended family. And we did not birth all 7 of these children.
Thank God.
It was a cooperative effort between our exes and, bringing these lives. But, just like the whole thing, we make jokes about people like, Brangelina and everything with all the many different children. But all children, deserve love in the home. And you can still find that and redirecting. The one thing about it is a lot of times to get away from yourself and what you're dealing with is to direct it towards others. And maybe that fulfillment of being a mother or an auntie or whomever, a big sister, would be also something that can help her get past this, to take it off herself.
Yeah, because, my aunt, she's a wonderful mother in her own right, but she's like a second mom to me.
Yeah, we call her Auntie Mommy.
Well, yeah, I call her Auntie Mommy. And, she took on responsibility, even though I am not her blood child. I'm not technically her kid, but, she took on the responsibilities of making sure I knew right from wrong, making sure I knew how to treat women, making sure I knew lessons about manhood, because my life was very, very traumatic as a child. And Nyghtstorm Nation knows I grew up in an abusive household. Mom hated dad, dad hated mom. I was caught in the middle, and there was no love there. But Auntie Mommy, she took the hard job of taking a child that was broken, taking a child that was thrown away, taking a child that was abused, and taking a child that did not understand what love was, and taught him what love was, and took that patient road of love to teach me. And she didn't give birth to me, but I would tell the entire world, that is my mother. And
That's
you
right.
don't have to, and Nicole, you don't have to give birth to be a mommy, because every woman that gives birth is not a mother. But every woman that takes the time to love a child selflessly, like you love your parents, that, ma'am, is a mother. And I know you will be a wonderful, wonderful mother to some lucky kid who would be blessed to have you in their lives. So please don't give up. And
That's right. That's right. And what if we took that same consciousness around what it means to nurture and take care of people and extend that, yes, to children, of course, to children, but let's extend that, too, to our friends, to our purposeful community, to the people that we choose. We, at any given point, can choose to nurture someone. And not from a place that says, I'm doing it because I should, I'm doing it because it's the right thing, I'm doing it because society told me to, but really from a place that is genuinely inside of you that has a desire to connect with someone on a heartfelt level. So I love that you brought that up, and we can even grow that out, because what if we all did that for each other, right? We can't make it happen that everybody else is going to show up the same way we are, but when we show up that way, we inspire others to show up that way. They go, she is always happy. She has the best friends. People are, I want me some of that, right? And they want to tap in, and they want to become that as well, without you ever having to try to tell them what they should do or tell them how they should show up. This is really about being authentic. YG, you said something at the very beginning. You used the word transparent.
We're going to get more into that and that transparency, Tiffany. We are on a roll, but we'll be right back on Love 860 AM. We're going to take this break and continue to talk and get into this transparency. Love 860 AM, Atlanta's inspirational talk radio station.
To all event planners, are you worried that your next corporate get-together is going to be boring?
Then invite the Nyghtstorms to speak at your next event and electrify your organization as we break down how to grow your business, fix broken relationships, and conquer life challenges.
So make your next event epic. Invite me and the Queen to rock the house with inspirational techniques designed to empower individuals and maximize their true potential.
And thanks for listening to Nyghtstorm Radio on Love 860 AM WAEC, Atlanta's inspirational station.
We are you.
This is Toby George Nyghtstorm, a.k.a. Lady Nyghtstorm, and I'm known as the woman not afraid to tell the truth about how things really are. And the truth I have to say to you is you should listen to Nyghtstorm Radio every Thursday from 11 to noon. And you should also like us on Facebook at Nyghtstorm Radio. Follow us on Twitter at Nyghtstorm Radio. And join the Nyghtstorm Nation mailing list on Nyghtstorm.com. That's NYGHTSTORM.com. Nyghtstorm Radio on Love 860 AM WAEC, Atlanta's inspirational talk radio station. We are you.
This is YG Nyghtstorm. And why should you listen to Nyghtstorm Radio? Because we relate to you or someone you know with topics taken directly from our lives. Every time you tune in, you'll hear a discussion about real subjects that affect real life. Why? Because me and the Queen have been there. So join us right here every Thursday morning from 11 to noon on Love 860 AM WAEC, Atlanta's inspirational talk radio station. Nyghtstorm Radio. We are you.
Hello, Nyghtstorm Nation. This is Toby George Nyghtstorm, a.k.a. Lady Nyghtstorm, and I have a question for you. How much are you spending each day on lunch? $6, $7, $10 even? Do you know that for less than what you spend each week on lunch, you can advertise your business or service right here doing the show on Nyghtstorm Radio? Why don't you inbox us on Facebook, send us a message on Twitter, or drop us a line at Nyghtstorm.com. Let us show you how you can get your business or service out in front of the people. Now back to the show.
We are back, and we are talking to certified professional life coach and transitions coach, Tiffany Hammond, and we getting good up in some folks, man. Now, I mean, good stuff.
When we left Tiffany, we were just getting into your comment. You were saying how YG is so transparent, the man not afraid to be transparent as he helped real people with real issues.
Say it, my queen, say it.
So you were saying, let's continue that statement you were saying.
I was just so excited to hear that, because I don't know that a lot of people understand that they can be transparent, that they can be an open book. We're so afraid of judgment. We're so afraid that we're going to be seen as less than, or that our mistakes are going to be seen as egregious compared to someone else's mistakes. But I'm going to ask you, I know I'm the guest, but I'm going to ask you a question, YG. How has your life changed since you have opened this book? How have people responded to you?
Well, that, ma'am, is an excellent question, and I'm going to answer that question in my British accent. Jared is shaking his head. Toby is, you're going to have some patience with me, Tiffany. Look, I'll say it like this. It's called Nyghtstorm Radio, and I can do...
Don't I get a vote on this? I'm a Nyghtstorm.
I should be able to say it the way I want to say it, sister, and Jared in the studio. Now, Tiffany, I'm going to break it down like this. I am transparent because I'm tired of being the only one dealing with this stuff. Mm-hmm. Once I opened myself up, I felt freedom.
Yes.
I was no longer afraid because the biggest fear that I had was that someone is going to find out.
Yep.
So guess what? If everybody know, the fear is gone. And to transition back to my regular voice, because the queen is looking at me. But
actually, I just started staring up at the ceiling because I'm just waiting on it to be over.
But for real, getting serious. But basically, when you release this stuff, and you know as well as I do, Triffany, that you can't hold on to this stuff. The longer you hold on to it, it's going to eventually burst, blow up, and kill you. That's the absolute truth. And if you hold on to it, and if it ain't killed you physically, it's going to drive you even crazier than you think you are. Okay, so I will say this. Once I released it, and I started telling my story, the opposite of what my fears were happened. Instead of me being estranged and looked at crazy, I was actually empowered. There were people who came to me and said, wow, you went through that, as a kid, and I'm like, yeah, you look at me now, 6'1", 300 pounds, in the gym all the time, bench press 500 pounds, blah, blah, blah. But I got raped as a kid. I got beat up and abused as a kid. I tried to kill myself several times, married, divorced, all kind of crazy stuff happening. And my oldest son died in 2008, but I'm still here. Mm-hmm. And I don't mind telling people because the more I talk about it, the stronger I get. The more people it affects and the more people support me. And that's the biggest thing outside of my queen and my family is what I really honestly needed.
And I know I needed the support. I know for us personally in our marriage and in the family, when that light came on for him, where he stopped hiding from it and he decided to, step into it and deal with it as opposed to trying to fight it or make it didn't happen. But yes, it did, and I'm going to deal with it. And he developed the techniques of dealing with it, like he said, getting up and walking away instead of letting that, like his PTSD moment, instead of letting it take over him and become him, and this is all he was the PTSD, when he decided to stand up and say, I'm not going to sit here and watch this. I'm going to go and walk away, get out the theater, as he said earlier. It made such a difference in him and how he related to us and the blaming and all that stuff. It made it a better place to be.
It made me a nicer person to be around.
Yes, exactly.
Absolutely. And look at the gift that he gave you. I mean, imagine if he had been trying to pretend this wasn't a thing, try to ignore it, try to pretend like it wasn't there. You would know, you're an intuitive woman, you're his partner, you're there for him, and you would want to be showing up for him. You would want to be helping him. But without him opening up that gift to you, you wouldn't be able to. You wouldn't be able to be the partner and receive his partnership without that level of transparency. And that's what's really, really important. When we go through our big losses, not only do we feel guilty about, having to make a decision like Nicole did, or feel, haunted like Tom does by these dreams. Not only do we feel that, but then if we don't face it openly and honestly with the people that love us the most, over time we begin to feel shame around those things. Because, guilt, I'm sorry for what I did. Shame, I'm sorry for who I am. And that doesn't empower anyone. That doesn't help anyone heal or move or grow. What kind of dad are you going to be? What kind of neighbor are you going to be? You can't do it when we're living in the shadows. And I love, YG, that you use the word freedom, that you felt free. There's a saying, you've reached the ocean because it tastes of salt, and you've reached the truth because it tastes of freedom.
Oh, my goodness. Boy, I love Tiffany
Hammond.
I love Tiffany Hammond. Woo.
You have such wonderful nuggets of information. How can our listeners support you, find out more about you and your projects? Let Nightstorm Nation and everyone know how to get in touch and find out more about Tiffany Hammond.
Oh, Oh, thank you. First things first, I want everybody to start coming to these monthly free calls. They're totally free. They're 30, 40 minutes long, so there's low time commitment. If you can't come at the regular time, they're recorded. You can download them all weekend. And guess what we're talking about tomorrow? Guilt and shame, healing from guilt and shame. So go to www.thewellnessaccomplice.com, and if you go to the services tab, you'll see the free resources and sign up for the free calls and the newsletter, and just stay apprised of what's going on. I do a ton of stuff all the time, and I really do work. My goal, you said at the beginning, my mission is to bring people back to love. So really what I want to do is put these tools in the hands of as many people that are ready. If you're ready for coaching, you're ready for healing, you're ready to take your life to the next level, at least come to this free call tomorrow. They're the third Friday of every month. Happens to be tomorrow. It's awesome. And we really do work on real-life things. This isn't foo-foo stuff. It's not an excuse for a sales pitch. It's none of that. It's come, take your first real step. And, I love that we're talking about guilt and shame. A lot of people aren't willing to go there. It's not a sexy topic. People don't want to admit that they have it, right? Nobody's shouting from the rooftops, I'm going to a call about guilt and shame. But it is so important. It's such important work, and it's such a valuable first step because we deserve, you talked about love, children deserving love. We deserve our love. We deserve to come to a place where we can accept and love ourselves so that we can build a foundation of love that allows other people to be accepted and loved as well. So I would love it if people just come do that. Sign up for other stuff if you want to, but please just take that first step because it's a glorious and easy way to do it.
Well, you know something. All of this good nuggets that you have been talking about, that we've been talking about, and folks trying to get through their PTSD, folks trying to get through their guilt, there's one very special word that has stood out throughout this entire conversation that is so powerful that it can conquer the greatest of adversaries. And that word is love. And we have reached the love shout-out section of our show. And it is a segment where members of Nyghtstorm Nation send us their love shout-outs and ask us to read them on the air to all of their special sweetie pies. And first Nyghtstorm love shout-out goes to, it says, big shout-out from Brian to his sweetie pie, Ayana. He says that he knows she is listening and for her to check under her pillow right now. He hopes that she says yes. You go, Brian. Woo! You better go, Ayana. You better check that pillow.
And we also want to give a shout out to Vivian at Diamond Pieces Entertainment. Hi, Vivian. She called in. She said, hey, I'm listening. I'm tuning in. So thank you for tuning in. She was a previous guest of ours, and thank you for still listening, even though you're not on today. Yeah. And also, Cindy is sending love to her girlfriend, April. She loves her with all her heart, soul, and mind.
Okay. And ma'am, are you still there, Tiffany?
I'm here.
Is there anybody special you would like to send a special love shout out to?
Oh my gosh. I have to say, I just fall in love with my kids again, day after day after day. They are in such a tough spot. They're 13. My son just turned 15. My daughter's 13. So they're in the tough age, and yet they are just doing the best that they can, working really hard, trying to show up and be their authentic selves. And every day I just marvel at them. And so, yes, grand love to my children. I love them so much.
Cool beans. And speaking of love with children and love with our family, yesterday,
yes,
because everybody is so busy, we have grown children, we have teenagers, and it's summertime, and everybody's running around and couldn't quite get together on Sunday for Father's Day. But yesterday, everybody dropped what they were doing. The schedules came together, and we all celebrated our father here, Big Papa YG Nyghtstorm. And you guys can go on Facebook and either check out my Facebook page, which is Lady Nyghtstorm, Toby George Nyghtstorm, Lady Nyghtstorm, or YG Nyghtstorm. And we got about, 30, 40 pictures posted.
60.
60 pictures posted from yesterday's dinner and celebrating Dad, happy belated. So we want to definitely send our love out to YG. I love you. Thank you for being a great dad that the kids would want to come together and give gifts and feed you and tell you we love you. And you're a great husband and father. And thank you for holding the family down and being our rock.
Oh, I'm just tearing up with tears of joy. And I will say this, and Triffany is a witness, and Nightstorm Nation is a witness. I honestly appreciate the efforts of my children. I love you guys very much, but I also appreciate the incredible effort of my lover, my queen, my best friend, my better half, my soulmate, my gift from God. Toby George Nightstorm, thank you for being a wife to me. Whether I got PTSD, depression, or whatever, you have stood with me for over 14 years, and you ain't going nowhere because I got you super glued, sister. I love you.
Well, all righty then.
Yeah, I said it.
Triffany, thank you so much for joining us today and being a guest on Nightstorm Radio.
Thank you so much for having me. What fun you guys are.
Oh, thank you. We try to keep it interesting. If we're going to have to sit here for an hour, we might as well talk about something we're talking about, right? Nightstorm Nation, thank you so much for listening to Nightstorm Radio, sending us your letters and supporting this show. Until next time, have a great week and stay safe. Join us next Thursday right here at 11 a.m. on your radio, your computer, your smartphone, right here on Love 860 AM, Atlanta's inspirational talk radio station, because
we are you.
Have a great week, everyone.